In boxing, punching is the easy part. The difficult part is not getting punched.
You in the trenches, it's cool to shoot them bullets. How you gonna defend yourself when them bullets coming back?
Mastering the art of defense takes time and mindful reps, but also a deep understanding of how defense works. Well, today we are going to dive deep into the most complete defense breakdown, so you can understand every aspect of it. In this breakdown, we will cover the 5 lines of defense. Every line serves as a defensive barrier to defend your opponent's offense, usually in this order, but they can be blended together in different sequences. In fact, most of the time boxers will mix up these lines of defense, for example, using footwork while parrying or blocking while slipping and rolling. So let's start from the base with the first line of defense, the footwork. Footwork is one of the most important things to become a great fighter. That's where everything starts. Said the boxer with a 396-1 amateur record and 2 gold medals. All punches, defensive techniques and moves are influenced by your footwork, as it is the base and foundation of everything you do in the ring. That is why understanding it is key to a correct development of your game. Well, today we are doing an in-depth breakdown of footwork to get a deeper understanding of this lost art. Fundamentals. Now, before we start with the different moves and techniques, we have to take a look at the fundamentals. So, how does footwork work? If you are an experienced boxer or you have already trained a few times, you may already know this, but it is still important to remind ourselves of the fundamentals. The idea of footwork in boxing is not to lose your stance and be as balanced and in position as possible. That is why when moving forward, you move the front foot first, then the back foot. And when moving backwards, the back foot first, then the front foot. Otherwise, there would be a point where both feet are too close to each other, leaving you unbalanced and out of position. Same applies to moving laterally. When moving to the left, move the left foot first, then the right foot. When moving to the right, move the right foot first, then the left. Same as before. This way you maintain your stance. Otherwise, you would be crossing your feet, leaving you unbalanced again.
Not cross your legs. If you do end up crossing your legs, you're off balance, and if you do get hit, you're only going to go back.
However, same as with head movement, there are some fighters who break these fundamental rules and are still successful.
Everything comes from the foundation of the foot.
But it is important to understand them anyways. With this fundamental, you can already move any direction you want, while having quote-unquote good footwork. However, there are other moves that will help you elevate your footwork even more and be more slick and efficient in the ring. Footwork techniques. Pivots. Pivots are a fast way to turn on an angle in one move.
Would you maybe want to see?
Instead of taking many short steps circling the opponent, with a pivot you can change an angle with one move.
Maybe you should start probably parrying it instead of that was difficult for him. But I need to tell the skills and the speed of 4-corner offense, even though he's still.
To do a pivot, you have to maintain the lead foot in position while the rear foot moves circularly like a compass. Pivots can be at different angles, 45 degrees, 90 degrees, or even 180 degrees. Pivots can also go in both directions, pivoting to your left and pivoting to your right. Both cases serve different purposes and can be used defensively to get away from punches.
His right hand. Round one. Yeah, only 3 connects to the body.
Or offensively to find a different angle to punch from.
Now he's going to come back.
So on the side.
Step back. Just like head movement, footwork is an integral part to one's defense, and perhaps one of the most basic defensive footwork techniques that can often get neglected is simply stepping back. The interesting thing is, it is also the most effective. As an opponent is about to attack, simply press on your lead foot and step back with your rear foot, and you will no longer be in range of attack.
Hook as well.
By stepping back, you don't have to worry about reading which punch is thrown, as you are stepping out of the range of attack, at which point no punch can land on you.
Oh, I think he's got to, I'm just making up in our fighter meetings.
He's not much upper body.
Strip this guy out. I am a knockout puncher.
So just anytime he's getting
A really easy and effective way to get out of range, but as it is a lineal movement, if you overuse it, you can end up being stuck on the ropes. That is why it is important to develop other techniques. L step. The purpose of the L step is to move both out of range and laterally at the same time.
cap.
These are the type of tests that we wanted, me and Chris Mannix wanted.
To do the L step, you have to bring your lead foot back, while at the same time take your rear foot to the side, and then reposition your lead foot to get back to your stance.
Poise, it was boxing straight up within time. Well, he has
You can use the L step and circle away, or use it and stay in position. Either way, you are getting out of range, not just vertically, but at an angle. Lateral steps. Now, in some cases, you may want to travel longer distances at a quicker pace, whether it's to catch your breath, dictate where the fight takes place, or to take time to figure out your opponent while being out of range.
Firing hooks and firing lead right hands as he circles, and he knows that
The power of Oscar. Oscar trying to pressure.
they're coming in on him, and he's firing off.
While we have seen on the footwork fundamentals that you move your right foot first when going to the right and your left foot first when going to the left, in this case we are going to do the opposite. In this case, the foot in the opposite direction pushes to the opposite foot, which opens to the side. This is also done from a squared stance to the opponent, instead of on the traditional boxing stance with one foot forward. When you need to move faster and repeatedly, it is a more efficient way to go around the ring.
To the body, I know Crawford loves to go to the body, but the body is not there. He's sticking that jab sometimes.
Uses it right there. He laid it out just a little bit too lazily. Avanesian was able to come over the top.
And this is what Avanesian does. He does it.
Shifting. Shifting is a footwork move where you are actually changing stances from orthodox to southpaw, or southpaw to orthodox.
polished, they're experienced, so even though they don't have a...
This can be done for different reasons. Close the distance, give your opponent a different look, or apply pressure.
Você удары мимо.
Снова пропускает левый прямой.
The mechanics have a similar motion of a pivot, where you would pivot forward with the rear foot, but going along with the movement and facing the same direction as the rear foot, which will eventually turn into the lead foot.
What's this? You see him condition.
Here's with a height and reach.
Step shuffles. Lastly, there are other advanced footwork moves like the step shuffles.
Are we seeing out with the hold and in with...
This is one of the quickest ways to change angles to attack an opponent. And is a move often linked to Mike Tyson. There are two types of step shuffles, front step shuffle and back step shuffle. The front step shuffle is done in two parts. First, by taking a small step forward and slightly to the side while keeping the head off the centre line, and then doing a shuffle. The shuffle is done with your rear foot chasing your lead foot while you hop to a new position at a 90-degree angle.
When he does that,
interesting doing there because he sees things that.
On the other hand, the back step shuffle is done with the back foot first.
Still have that shot, right?
Kind of buckled.
In this case, you would cross your rear leg forward and slightly to the side while taking your head off the centre line. In this case, you are changing your stance for a second, and then you get back to your stance with the shuffle. The shuffle, same as before, is done by hopping and twisting your body.
Starting the second round, another lead hook.
Team round right here.
Got everything going.
All of these techniques together make a complete footwork, both defensively and offensively.
here's where the height and reach.
Now, after the first line of defense, the hands get involved to deflect punches in the form of parries. Parrying is the act of deflecting an opponent's punch with a quick, subtle movement of the hand, forearm or elbow. It's a skill that requires great timing, reflexes and accuracy, but these high requirements yield high returns, allowing you to turn your opponent's offense into opportunities to counter with big punches or set up defensive maneuvers.
Something they didn't really expect.
So let's dive into the world of parrying. Parrying punches. Basics and best practices. The basic principle of parrying is to redirect the opponent's punch away from its intended target. This can be done in many ways to deal with different punches, situations and opponents. A really common and useful parry you will see is the parry of the jab. Knowing how to parry the jab is key for energy efficient defense. Instead of having to constantly give ground or move your head, which wastes a lot of energy,
Yeah, and you're unleashed the other jab. Lots of jabs, nothing landed. However, Canelo, it's moving.
you will simply have to touch your opponent's jab. Parrying the jab is an intermediate level technique, as it is easier to learn than slipping, but harder and more high risk than blocking and catching. You should structure your training accordingly, developing your jab parries only once you have learned how to block and catch. When learning to parry, it's best to start with a simple jab catch, as all parries flow easily from it, and it's safer for beginners. Catching is easy. Open your glove, turn the thumb in, and drive towards the jab. The catch shares startup mechanics with several different types of parries, but it has some key differences that are important to understand. First, catches offer more coverage than parries, since your hand stays in the way of their jab throughout the motion, instead of swiping across the attack line or dropping down. This makes them a bit safer and less reliant on good timing. Second, catches require less commitment, as they do not move the hand as far from the face or take the elbow off the body, leaving you in a position to follow up with attacks or defense. There is a downside. Catches offer very little control of the opponent's hand, and thus far fewer opportunities to safely follow up with attacks or aggressive movement. This weakness happens to be the number one strength of parrying. When parrying, you trade coverage for control. Once you know how to catch the jab, parrying is the next natural step. As soon as you feel the opponent's glove touch your palm, you can use that contact to transition to any of the following parrying options. Number 1. Drop or down parries. The down parry involves pushing, tapping or dragging your opponent's punch down, using the glove or forearm. Like all parries, this can be done directly off the jab catch. You'll often see it used to defend against body shots, and it is especially useful to open up counterattacks. Like all parries, down parries have pros and cons. Pros. Down parries are very tiring for the opponent. They're forced to do a front raise to recover their basic defensive position, going against gravity and the pressure of your arm. Down parries create big openings. Knocking the hand down opens that punch lane for your power shots to the head. They are relatively easy to pull off. Because gravity is on your side, down parries are much easier than scoop out, lift or in parry options. Cons. Down parries expose your head. The drop action exposes your face, and this motion can be exploited to open you up. Number 2. Inside parries. With inside parries, we use catch mechanics but turn the hand pinky side in at the last second, driving into the hand, wrist or forearm to knock their punch off course. Pros. Inside parries leave the parrying hand free to defend. In an orthodox versus orthodox situation, the parrying motion hands your hand across the opponent's jab lane and nearly into the path of their cross. Some opponents will be reluctant to punch through the traffic made by your hand, and even if they do punch, you're still in a position to defend as your hand is still at head level and close to your face. Inside parries set up same side counters. Just like down parries, inside parries create openings for attacks on that side. Cons. Inside parries require good timing and they leave you open when mistimed. Number 3. Scooping, parrying outside. With outside parries, we use catch mechanics but roll the hand thumb down and out at the last second to scoop their punch to the outside. Pros. Outside parries keep you in control of the opponent's hand for a long time, for the whole duration of the scooping action, which gives you lots of opportunities to circle, step offline, or close the gap on that side. Outside parries put your hand on the inside track. Outside parries end with your hand on the inside, pushing the opponent's hand outward. In other words, they leave your hand closer to your opponent's hand than theirs, so you'll arrive first if you want to tag them with a quick punch, try to blind or control the head. Cons. Outside parries are harder to time and pull off, requiring more drilling to get the motion right. Outside parries do not set you up for same side counters, except for little slapping shots you can steal from the end position. The hand is left far too out of the optimal start position and at a strange angle that is tough to generate power from. Of course, the jab is not the only punch we can parry. Hooks are a little bit more tricky to deal with, but they can be parried. One option involves slightly ducking your head and lifting your hand at the right moment, so you deflect the punch right over you. There are also more advanced parrying techniques, such as the shoulder parry or even the elbow parry. Sometimes, punches can be parried with your shoulders. A great technique is the shoulder roll. It involves rolling the shoulder to deflect the punch and create an opening for a counter.
Opening, subtle shift, and then he darts away from the...
One of the most tricky techniques is the elbow parry. Quite unusual, but it can be effective to defend your opponent's more lazy attacks. It can be done with the elbow or the forearm, and is a good technique to rest and save energy while moving around the ring.
And you see how quick he grabbed onto him and prevented him.
Now the third line of defense, and often the more eye-catching, is head movement. Head movement, as a general term, refers to light movements of your head that are performed to evade strikes.
Good head movement. Good head movement.
As the head is the target, moving it becomes crucial to avoid getting hit.
He comes back right away though, Dom. He comes back straight.
Comes back swinging himself, and now, well, Kelly.
However, head movement is not just about randomly moving your head. It involves coordination between your feet, waist and shoulders, all working in sync to execute the movement correctly. To the untrained eye, it may seem that boxers are randomly avoiding punches, but head movement can actually be dissected into 3 main techniques. The 3 boxing techniques we will dissect allow you to avoid the 6 basic punches in boxing. Straight punches, left and right, hooks, left and right, and uppercuts, left and right. So let's take a look at these techniques and their pros and cons. Number 1. Slips. Slipping is performed by moving the head to either side, causing the opponent's punches to slip by the boxer. Slips are generally used to avoid straight punches, specifically the jab and the straight backhand. You can slip on the outside or to the inside. It is generally recommended to slip punches to the outside because it puts you out of danger for a following punch. However, slipping to the inside also has its advantages, such as enabling great counters to the body or overhands.
This time around.
Well, that's what I mean.
Pros. A big advantage of slipping is that it opens up opportunities for straight counter punches. This is especially effective when your opponent has a rather slow jab, as a quick counter can catch them off guard.
It's not as easy as...
Cons. The problem with slipping is that you remain in range, which can always be dangerous. If you're not careful when slipping a 1-2 combination, you can leave yourself vulnerable to getting knocked out.
Et pour le futur, je l'espère.
Et puis quand on parle de futur.
Number 2. Rolls. Rolling is performed by slightly ducking and turning your body to the side, creating somewhat of a U-shaped movement. It is mainly used to avoid left and right hooks. Pros. As mentioned earlier, after ducking, the slight turn to the side positions you perfectly to throw a counter hook.
The body now, a combination, but
Left hook, good night.
Cons. Similar to slipping, when you roll punches, you remain in range. It is not uncommon to see fighters get clipped with an uppercut while rolling.
That was the first time he felt Gennadi's power.
As they are consistently ducking down.
That's back. Oh, he won't recover from that. That's a huge uppercut.
That is why understanding the next technique will also help mitigate the risks associated with rolling. Number 3. Pulls. Pulls are performed as the name suggests, by pulling your body back and transitioning your weight to the back foot to evade a punch. We've already covered how to avoid 4 of the 6 main punches in boxing, and pulls are generally used for the remaining 2, the left and right uppercuts.
the scoring blows.
However, they can also be used against other punches. Pros. Opposite to the other 2 techniques, with the pull, you actually get out of range. Additionally, you don't have to worry about which punch is thrown, left or right, as the technique applies in the same manner for both.
32 thrown.
With a left hook to the liver there, but...
And he's winning these rounds. That hook touched Canelo off. Answers with a hook, something. Whoa.
Cons. The biggest advantage of pulling back is also its biggest disadvantage. As you get out of range, you'll have to re-enter the range to land a counterpunch, which is more difficult to execute. However, it is still possible to counter effectively.
68-66 Canelo.
Beautiful display of defense.
Another example is the pull counter employed by Mayweather. Mayweather solves the range issue by positioning his head more forward than usual, baiting his opponent to throw a punch. When he pulls back, as he was already positioned forward, he is not too far away, allowing his counter to connect perfectly.
The comfort zone, and you know what the gym is working. Classic Mayweather. Seen it when things were not going his way. That sneaky left hook, and there's the right hand lead.
By combining these three techniques, you can effectively evade any of the 6 basic punches in boxing.
Excuse me, right uppercut.
This is why boxing is often compared to a chess match, as it involves anticipating and countering your opponent's moves. So let's see all the different moves combined and how they are applied in fights. Slip roll. In this case, Frank Bruno throws a 1-2.
Anytime he gets close to...
Mike slips the jab and rolls under the straight right, countering with a hook on the same side and following up with another hook. You can see it happen several times during the fight.
Yeah, Bill Slane trying to take it. I guarantee you. Oh.
Rolled slip. In this case, Nielsen throws a lead hook first, and then a straight right. Tyson rolls under the hook, and then slips the straight to the outside and end up in a clinch. Slip pull. In this case, Canelo does it from what we could say a lazy L guard with his hands a little too low, but it is a great example anyways. Cotto throws a jab which Canelo slips on the outside and then comes with an uppercut which Canelo defends with a pull. Pull slip. In this case, Liam Smith throws an uppercut first and a jab after. Canelo does a pull to avoid the uppercut and a slip for the jab. He then later does it again to defend a double jab. Roll pull.
Mentioned the Akhmadov.
Pull roll.
Avoids a sweeping left hook, although...
There are infinite combinations and variations in how punches can be avoided, and each fighter may have their own unique approach to using head movement. However, by mastering these fundamental techniques and dedicating countless hours to practice, you can become a master at not getting hit. Now, after head movement, one of the last lines of defense is blocking punches. Blocking is a defensive technique used to reduce the impact of an incoming punch by intercepting it with a part of the body, typically the gloves, forearms or elbows, much like using a shield.
It's very important to block because you're setting up yourself to throw your punches and take away what he's trying to do. So you're blocking his punches and you're letting your punches go.
And the counter!
It's the same way the Romans had the shields and then they had the swords.
Skill that doesn't require great reactions or timing to execute. But don't get it twisted. Blocking is an essential part to true boxing finesse. Blocking is often the last line of defense, which means bad blocking could be fatal. Let's start by breaking down the 2 types of blocks. Types of blocks. Extended block. Boxers who use the long guard sometimes will rely on the extended block. This technique involves extending the lead or rear hand to block punches, usually with the forearm or elbow.
And again, he's fought high-level fight.
Here, the arms are far from the body. This way of blocking covers a wider surface and blocks many lanes of traffic simultaneously. However, while the extended block intercepts punches before they reach their target, it leaves your body more exposed. That's why this block is mostly used from the outside and with the lead hand. But if one punch gets through, you're wide open. Close block. The close block is the opposite. It leaves 3 lanes of traffic for your opponent to punch, but it covers the entire body.
And best power punch from the batters left here in the 4th for Gamboa.
This is the traditional block. The punch connects with your glove, shoulder, forearm or elbow, absorbing its impact. In this case, you will absorb the power of the punch, still feeling it on your body, but you are not exposed to a clean shot like with the extended block. This classic blocking technique requires less guesswork and exposes you to fewer clean shots. Most of the examples we'll use today will be based on the close block, as it's more common and effective in most situations. But remember, every block has its time and place. Now, let's take a look at the basic mechanics and fundamentals. Mechanics and fundamentals. Number 1. Staying relaxed. The most important element of effective blocking is staying loose. You should only tighten your body just before impact.
Coming forward, the key to like having a good defense coming forward is staying relaxed, having the confidence in you to ride a few shots. So the start was to throw a few shots, like 1-2 left up. Now it's just staying relaxed and just staying relaxed and coming forward and pushing forward.
Pumping it out there,
trying to penetrate the gloves of Canelo. He just
now ahead in punch and clean.
And likewise on the back foot, if you're tense and Scott's going to throw the same 3 shots now, and I'm tense and he's going to throw him, it's like, it's you know, it looks like worse than it is. You're burning loads of nervous energy, so stay relaxed and just ride the shots out.
Both guys landing something. Loads to get the first knockdown of the definitive.
If you're rigid most of the time, your movements will be slower, less fluid, and you'll deplete your energy quickly.
Look at that. He wouldn't be hanging in there if he felt he could get knocked out. All right, here we go. It's back. Look, I'm telling you.
It is quite easy to understand this concept, but really difficult to execute in a real scenario. It is not just knowledge, but diligent practice that makes perfection. Number 2. Use the whole body. Although we typically catch punches with our hands, proper blocking involves more than just the movement of our arms. Perfect blocking means crouching the upper body, thus hiding the chin and slightly bending the knees for a better base when receiving the punch.
We stay tucked nice and low, okay? Everything becomes more compact, not less compact. Core engages, elbows tuck in tight, and we're in here nice and tight, nice and tight.
Interesting.
Now when I'm resisting punches and I'm trying to react and defend as shots are coming in, I'm more capable of doing that because I have good balance.
Not much as of yet.
I have good resistance.
The best punch from the baddest man in the...
I have good stability.
As they start to...
And I'm in a position where I can view what's coming at me from a safer standpoint.
This is also what we've seen out of Triple G.
This also makes you a smaller target and will only leave the skull exposed. This way, you protect the more sensible areas like the temple and the chin, and the hardest part of the head, in this case the skull, is on the front. This will give you more confidence when absorbing a punch, and some fighters can even hurt their hands when landing on the skull.
I wasn't really uncomfortable, fighting a short fight. The only thing was when I was throwing my punches, it was hitting on top of his head, so that's why my hand was hurt. hurt so bad, so.
The end of the round, at the end of the fight, I'm sorry.
Number 3. Don't block your vision. While we are covering the concept of blocking, there is one thing that shouldn't be blocked: your vision. Gennady Golovkin is one of the best at blocking, and you'll notice that he always keeps his eyes locked on his opponent, even while absorbing punches. This will also give you confidence when absorbing a punch, as when looking at the punch, your body is prepared for impact and will take it better.
He gives Spencer the advantage from those shots from Crawford.
The jab, the uppercut.
Always leave a small gap to see through your high guard and be aware of any incoming punches through that gap. A common issue when blocking is to either cover too much on the sides, blocking your peripheral vision, or too much up front, blocking the center vision. That is why it is important to have a Number 4. Dynamic defense is greater than static defense. Dynamic defense means that blocking is not just standing passively in a high guard.
The closed guard should be used temporarily to absorb 1 or 2 punches.
Lomachenko, his movement, he really is superb. The lateral movement.
So the closed guard should be used for several seconds only. Do not put too much confidence in the high guard. If it's not so closed, your body is opened.
Blocking is most effective when combined with other defensive maneuvers, enabling you to break your opponent's rhythm and create unexpected offense. Static defense can come in handy in some scenarios, like recovering from a knockdown or as a tactic to tire out your opponent, but most of the time it will leave you susceptible to heavier shots. Number 5. Make subtle adjustments. Blocking should not be exaggerated. Furthermore, when done correctly, blocking should almost be imperceptible. Big movements create big openings. If a boxer moves subtly and maintains composure, it is harder to set him up.
Great punch combination there for Ramirez.
Knockouts caused by liver shots are a great example.
To keep Canelo Alvarez at bay. Does he have that stick? Down the shot.
Usually, the defender raises his hand too much and leaves an opening. That's what you should avoid.
That was a headshot. Down he goes to the body, and that should do it.
Some fighters will also open their palm when blocking to cover more surface. And just make small adjustments when an opponent goes upstairs or downstairs.
He gives Spencer the advantage.
Now, let's take a look at how to block the 6 basic punches. Blocking the 6 basic punches. In this section, we'll review how to block the 6 basic punches. While there are different ways to block and various guards you can use, we'll focus on the high guard and close block. These are the most fundamental and commonly used techniques. Head. Straights and uppercuts. 1, 2, 5, 6. To block straight punches and uppercuts to the head, bring both arms to the front and lean your forehead slightly forward while maintaining the weight on the front foot.
So I always think the safest way is to just close the gap. Close the gap.
When blocking straight punches and uppercuts, it is important to make force trying to bring your elbows together. That way, the punch won't go through. A common mistake is leaving the elbows separate, which will break the guard.
Tries the hook.
You can also block the 1, 2, 5 and 6 by using just one of the arms and rotating your body, giving you an already loaded counterpunch. Hooks. 3, 4. Hooks can be blocked with both the gloves and the shoulders. In this case, the punch will land on your shoulders and the glove. As mentioned, having a solid base will be important to maintain balance and absorb the punch better.
Clean jab, and already there's some...
But even more important is
You will simply have to raise the arm slightly to block the punch. This shouldn't be a big movement, as your stance should already be covering most of your body. Body. Straights and uppercuts. 1, 2, 5, 6. Straights to the body are often uncomfortable to block as it will often stop your movements when going forward.
Believe that Caleb impact. Benavides walking down.
Uppercuts to the body are also quite challenging because it is difficult to perceive them at close range. The mechanics of blocking an uppercut or straight to the body is the same as the ones to the head. Both arms or just one. Either way does the job.
Great punch combination there for
The only difference is that you will block the punch with your elbow instead of your forearms or gloves. The important thing, as mentioned before, will be to push your elbows together to not let any punch get through and maintain that crouched position, to not leave the lower part of the body exposed.
Nice uppercut on the inside.
Hooks. 3, 4. To block hooks to the body, you require your arms will be on the sides glued to the body.
Now moves forward.
You won't have to lower them, as that would create openings upstairs. Again, small movements will be key. By simply lowering your body on that crouched position, you will be able to absorb the shot.
Not everyone's blessed with the longest arms in the world, so sometimes you have to lean into them shots. On both sides, so it's there, yep. You have to lean down into him.
Finally, the last line of defense, and the one that cuts all offense, is the clinch. In this video, we'll cover the 3 stages of the clinch. Getting to the clinch, working within the clinch, exiting the clinch. By understanding these stages, you'll unlock the full potential of this essential yet often underestimated aspect of boxing. But before we start with the first stage of the clinch, let's take a look at the use cases of the clinch and why it makes sense to use it. Use cases. Get a break. The most obvious reason to clinch is to take a breather. When you're being overwhelmed by your opponent's offense, the clinch provides a much needed opportunity to catch your breath and regain your composure. It's like hitting the pause button in the middle of a heated exchange.
Oh, they cut him again, Nicholas! Look at the last set!
Being able to manage your energy in a fight is key, and the clinch is a great loophole that can help you recover. Instead of being exposed when most tired, you can cut the offense and recover. Negate offense. The clinch can be a powerful defensive tool. If you anticipate your opponent's attack, you can clinch preemptively to neutralize their momentum and prevent them from throwing any punches at all. It's a great way to disrupt their rhythm and take control of the pace of the fight.
Hands are free, fellas.
Double jab. Mikkel Kessler, the champion in the white and orange trunks. Andre Ward.
Get about hitting him with the right hand.
Yeah, yes, that is true.
Some ebb and flow in it. Kessler will find the mark eventually.
Take advantage so much of it, yeah.
Mikkel Kessler, 42-1.
This way, you're also negating any possible counterattack from their part. Regain center control. Losing the center of the ring can put you at a disadvantage. If you find yourself pushed against the ropes, the clinch can be used to create separation and re-establish control of the center of the ring. As you are being separated, you can move around the referee and take a more favorable position. Sneak shots. The clinch isn't just a defensive maneuver.
Talk about pressure. These people nowadays, kids nowadays talk.
For example, you might clinch with your opponent and then quickly break free with a powerful, unexpected uppercut.
Yeah. Is he capable?
This is fast in the ring. Once he sees the opening. Uppercuts by Ward now.
Not that Dawson's not doing some good work. He is.
You can also use it to sneak shots at short range, especially against opponents who don't control their inside game as much.
Left hand by Morrell.
Oh. But now, let's start with the first stage of the clinch. Getting to the clinch. The first challenge is engaging the clinch safely. Typically, this involves moving from long or mid-range into close range. In this process, you're exposed to incoming shots. That is why when clinching, you should create either a distraction, such as a feint or a punch, or a defensive move that allows you to enter the clinch safely, such as a level change or a high guard. The most effective way to clinch would be a mix of both with a quick step forward. For example, jab, level change, quick step forward. That is usually the most common way to clinch, especially when boxing from a more bladed stance. The two most common scenarios you will encounter then are an arm-in hug or a body lock. The arm-in hug happens when the opponent is in a high guard. As you change levels, you will wrap your arms around him, covering the whole body, trapping his arms on the inside, not letting them punch. However, the arm-in hug is a rather weak position, and you shouldn't rely too much on it. Your opponents can break it by simply pushing with both arms. Or putting a frame with the forearm or elbow. Now the other scenario is the body lock. In this case, the opponent may have missed with his lead and you got under it. So, you will have his body locked instead of wrapping around his arms.
So, you can use this as a big learning experience.
You can use this position to go under the opponent and turn him around to get an angle.
Beautiful. And I love that pivot right there.
Guy that's just going to come in here and lay down. He wants the win.
Сьогодні будь-що треба вигравати нашій команді для того, щоб
To stop that from happening, the opponent will usually go for a headlock. To get out of it, walk your hips under you in a straighter posture and use your legs to lift up. That way it will either release the grip or the opponents will get lifted with you.
Whoa!
No. Giving up control.
Kind of taking advantage of that. Stop!
On the other hand, when boxing from a high guard and a more squared stance, a good technique to clinch is the breaststroke.
The best way to do it is with what I call the breaststroke maneuver. The hands are up, and all I'm going to do is kind of do the breaststroke. I'm going right between his gloves. I'm going over the top, grabbing these gloves, pulling them down against my side, so that he can't rip them out, and putting my head over the outside of his shoulder so I cannot be butted, and then I wait for the referee to break.
Just yet. Big right hand, and now alive. They're
From the high guard, you will extend your arms on the inside of your opponent's guard and wrap around them, getting both overhooks, completely locking the opponent's arms. Now the opponent will have different ways to get out of it, which we will review in the third stage of the clinch. Working within the clinch. Now the second stage of the clinch is the action on the clinch itself. We will go over in detail about the key positions and scenarios of the clinch, but one of the most important things on the clinch will be proactivity.
Gamboa, big shots by the Pitbull. Can he finish off the Cruz pouring it on, looking to end the night of Yorioka.
There are no 100% safe positions in a boxing match. Even though the clinch is safer than staying in mid-range, there's always a threat. And while the clinch objective is to neutralize punches, there is still opportunity for both you and your opponent to punch.
His corner said your second wind is coming.
So you will have to keep an eye open for opportunities, and the other one open for any incoming threat. Now let's take a look at one of the dilemmas of the clinch. Arms inside versus arms outside. When we explore the world of the clinch, the most basic question that arises is, should I try to have my arms on the inside or on the outside? Well, the reality is both positions will offer you different advantages and disadvantages, so it is better to review each scenario individually. Some argue that with the arms on the inside, they are more covered and have the punching advantage. Others prefer to have the arms on the outside, as it is easier to get an angle around the opponent. The reality is that it will depend more on the scenario you find yourself in and knowing what to do in it. However, there is a theory for what your advantage will be, depending on your frame. Low versus high posture game. If you want your clinch game to be on another level, you need to adapt the clinch to your specific opponent. Consider your style, your weaknesses and your strengths to adopt the way to clinch that best suits you. With frame, we mean taller and shorter. If you are the taller boxer, it is in your best interest to play the high posture game. And if you are the shorter boxer, the low posture game. Each offers different advantages and opportunities. Let's start with the high posture. If you are in the clinch with a smaller opponent, he will have a lower centre of gravity and therefore a better base, making it easier to destabilise you. But as mentioned, you will have to play your cards to your advantage. In your case, as the taller of the two, you can lean over and put your weight on him. Now you are in an advantageous position. This is a very draining position, and this way you completely neutralise the shorter opponent's inside game, which is where he has the advantage. Most times, you will naturally end up securing overhooks, sometimes both arms, sometimes one arm while controlling your opponent's head with the other. Occasionally, you may get one or both underhooks or a combination of positions. But when in those positions, playing your height to your advantage will be key. Apart from pushing the opponent down, you can lift him up and destabilize him, breaking his balance.
Was actually considerably further ahead.
As the taller boxer, you will get him off his base and will have control of the clinch. On the other hand, we have the low posture. If you are the shorter fighter, you should try to stay low. This posture is more stable and leaves less openings, allowing you to control the head of the opponent.
Every time frontal like that, and frontal every time. That's not, no, like front. Yeah. Step. Bam, 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 bam. That's different. No, it's very, not before you, oh.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Controlling the head is an effective maneuver in the clinch. By controlling your opponent's axis, even if he finds an opportunity, he will not be able to throw punches with proper mechanics and power. As the shorter fighter, you will push his head and break his posture, making him lose balance. Exiting the clinch. As mentioned before, if you want to break a clinch and one arm is trapped, you should use the free one to put a frame. Now, if the opponent has both arms tied, whether it's with overhooks or underhooks, you are in a difficult position. However, some boxers like Lomachenko are great at getting out of those positions.
More quickly, but again,
the main principle will be to lower the position, thus getting space and breaking the hooks. And also using the head to put a support to be able to push and unlock your arms.
1, 2, and very, very important like that. 1, 2.
Oh, yeah.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Going back to the fundamentals of the clinch, sometimes the break will be easier, or even the opponent will want to break it. In those cases, you will have to be very aware of any sneaky punches.
Some answers, and now he goes to left. Which corner will be happier at this stage? Oh, is that a sign?
Same as when entering the clinch. When exiting the clinch, you will have to do it defensively responsible. And if the opponent is not defensively responsible when breaking the clinch, and the referee has not given any instruction on the break, take advantage of it. As we have seen, there is much more to defense than just moving your head. Understanding all these principles and learning how to master each one will allow you to have a much more complete defense and thus be more elusive in the ring. But now, we would love to know your opinion on the comments. What is your favourite form of defense? Let us know, and if the video was interesting, you can find more on our channel. And to your left, we have chosen a video that we thought you may like.